Dan, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
So there's sort of a disconnect here. If you didn't know anything about Coinbase and you woke up and you said that the numbers missed, and yet you looked at what crypto prices have been doing, you might be surprised. So what was going on here?
I mean, volumes were weaker, right, than people were expecting, and I'm actually quite surprised because you can actually track those things pretty nicely. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong about this quarter, but I think what was missing from this quarter a little bit is the element of surprise. And remember, the stocks had a massive run up until here, so I mean, I can see why there's some, air kind of blowing out of, coming out of that balloon in this quarter. But really nothing wrong with the quarter. I mean, they're doing great.
They're doing great, but you do, if I'm not mistaken, you have a neutral rating on the stock. What's going on there? Is it and does the drop today make you maybe a little less negative?
I prefer, so if you think about the way we think about crypto, I mean, again, we look at every stock individually, but I prefer Robinhood. So if you think about sort of the exposure to crypto is good to have, but it's like chocolate, right? You don't want to have too much of it. You get too much of it, you get sick, right? So that's why we prefer Robinhood. You've got like 25% exposure to Robinhood and to crypto, and like 75% that's not crypto related, right? So with Coinbase, every movement on crypto, everything that's happening in crypto, and by the way, they're going the other way, which maybe feels like it's sort of a Me Too trying to get, take a page out of, Robinhood. So maybe the market doesn't like that. It's sniffing it out a little bit. Not that they're getting into equities and into futures. So I think there's a little bit of that. But overall, it's not bad, but there's just like not that much. The element of surprise is kind of missing from that. And I think that's why we are a little more kind of reserved on that. Neutral. We're not too negative. We're not too positive.
Dan, as you mentioned, they're trying to push into some trading of some other asset classes, and also into tokenization, right? Tokenization of assets. What do you make of that whole trend, and do you think that is going to catch on, both for Coinbase and others?
I think it could be bigger than equities, right? And I think Robinhood has been proven to be sort of the leader of the pack there. I mean, with that event that they did at the end of June. Coinbase is also doing that. But if you think about this, there's like an enormous appetite for investors to invest in private assets, even institutional investors that I talk to, like my clients, and they just can't do this. And especially outside the US, it's even more difficult to do that. So if you're able to put it on the blockchain and let someone own a share of a private company, it's just like, expands the TAM like dramatically for everything. And also companies are taking longer to go public. This is another trend where, you're seeing like Stripe, right? They've been, private forever and everyone's like, when's the IPO? When's the IPO? Now you can invest in Stripe privately, which you couldn't do before. So I view this as a massive leap in sort of the evolution of trading.
So interesting. So because I think some have proposed a tokenization even of things that are already public, like equities, but it sounds like you think the real opportunity is more in private assets.
Great question. Private assets, real opportunity, both US and outside the US. Stocks, mostly outside the US, because there's really not much to improve. I mean, Robinhood, for example, almost they let you trade equities in the US for free. So let's say you're offering, tokenized stocks, like public stocks in the US. I'm not sure what problem it solves. But outside the US, think about it, like trading commissions are very high. You have to get on the brokerage stack. Like this thing just like lets you get off the brokerage stack, makes everything quick, efficient, cheap. It's a huge innovation for people wanting to invest in US equities outside the US.
And Dan, finally, obviously we've gone a little bit afield from Coinbase, but I am also curious to ask you about some of the recent sort of policy adjustments the SEC has announced with regards to crypto and securities definitions, et cetera. What are the implications then for the companies you cover, like a Coinbase or a Robinhood?
Everything in this administration and sort of the people that work for the administration have been phenomenal for the industry, right? I mean, they talk about the prior administration's war on crypto, right? I wouldn't go that far. I mean, they're just trying to regulate things. So I'm not of that camp, but lawsuits are being dropped. Genius Act, SEC, everything seems to be very conducive to the industry, and that's why you're seeing some of the fear factor on, the regulatory side being kind of subsiding. So I view this very positively because, we love when, our buys are going up and when the market's doing well. So this is good for us as well.
Dan, really quickly though, obviously some of this is being priced in at this point. So what then would be a catalyst for another leg up, either in the underlying assets or the stocks?
For Coinbase specifically?
For Coinbase, for Robinhood, for Bitcoin, you name it.
You would need, it's a really good question. I think the next leg up on this one, and again, I'm not a predictor. I don't have my crystal ball with me today, but I think for the next leg up of this one, you need maybe some sort of, like interest rate. I think a lot of it has to do, I think people don't realize it, but I think a lot of it has to do with, rates and the expectations of rates cuts and macro. So I think for that, you need maybe macro certainty into the second half. And I think that could be very, good or bad for the crypto. So I think that's what's going to drive the risk appetite. And remember, crypto is a risk asset. So that's going to sort of flow through as the risk appetite goes
Gotcha.
on.